Good morning, Marat. You look centered. Costa Rica must be treating you well.
Costa Rica, that's very true. Good morning, Sid.
Before we jump into your story, I've got to ask you, Marat, do you ever miss anything from your days in Kazakhstan or Expo life?
Honestly, almost nothing. Mountains a little bit. Yeah, snow. I miss snow.
Yeah, I bet you do. You've described your journey as walking out of one world and consciously creating another. That's not just brave, Marat. It's a blueprint breaking.
Thank you. It's good that you're saying blueprint. I really love this word lately. I think it's, and thank you for saying that it's brave. I was never thinking it like that. I think it's inevitable when you are feeling the internal change.
I can't wait to explore that. Let's dive in. The following is a conversation with Marat Omarov, visionary builder, former national project leader and founder of the ARK Regenerative Village challenging the norms of modern society. This is Pre-Zero Sports Talk podcast and I'm your host Sid Bensalah. Today, we explore what happens when someone walks away from traditional success to pursue purpose, performance and community from the ground up. Marat, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sid. Excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Can you take us back to your early days in Kazakhstan? What was life like growing up there?
Well, I was born in Kazakhstan, and in 1983, it was a Soviet Union back then, USSR. And then actually we moved to Belarus when I was very little. My parents literally came back to the motherland to give birth to me. Then my mom gave birth, and then we came back to Belarus where they were living at that time. So we moved back to Kazakhstan when I was 10, and when the Soviet Union just collapsed. And 90s, I believe in any post-Soviet country were not fun. And interesting to say, I have very bright memories about living in USSR. Life in Belarus in Soviet times. Also childhood maybe, right? Like it's rarely maybe that a child has a bad memories till the age of 10. But I remember 90s were pretty gray. And Kazakhstan is a very beautiful country, amazing people. And we're lucky to have a lot of mineral resources. So we didn't experience that much of poverty and complications that other maybe post-Soviet countries went through. We were lucky to be a natural resources and minerals country, and Kazakhstan very quickly stabilized the economical situation. So pretty much it very quick became well. And but my free life finished very quick. We moved when I was 10, and that by the age of 14 I was already in the military school. So I don't have these 4 years of changing two schools in the meanwhile, and settling down and just getting friends, and then becoming a military person when it was in early teenage years.
Wow. How did the culture of discipline and structure shaped your early view of leadership?
I was thinking a lot, but my early interviews back then in Kazakhstan, and I was so grateful for this experience that I had. And exactly as you say, it's a lot of discipline, it's a lot of order. But I want to say that now, when I'm living in a more free life, when I'm kind of unlearned and shed the onion, I call it. So I shedded the layers of what was not serving, and then in the beginning it honestly was serving a lot. I believe it's one thing is discipline, another thing is resilience. And the opening the veil, I didn't want to study in the military school. Practically it was my father's dream. And when he gave me to the school, and within 1 month I realized that I don't want to be there. And I was crying and asking him to take me out from there. And honestly speaking, it was the last time I cried till I was 40. Imagine, because he didn't take me out from there. He didn't take me out from there, and this is like a growth through trauma, where this resiliency, when you're like, okay, so practically that's it. I'm here. I'm here for the next 3 years. I have to figure it out. And this resiliency truly, and then you can, the cake has a lot of layers. You get resiliency, then you get discipline, then of course you have like great physical preparation. It's just like a lot of working out, right? It's just like, and also molding and fitting in, and like it's like a lot of survival skills that we were like 150 guys at the age of 14. Imagine the level of testosterone situation, and the level of competitiveness and the amount of fights, and it's a lot. And I was never a big guy. I was never this like, fighter guy. And I had to find my way. But the resilience, I think, is later on applying it to the business, when, business goes up and down, and you have to sometimes just like stick to it. And you just have to go through it. And you just have to sometimes push, sometimes pull, sometimes flow. And but the one thing you have to do, you have to persevere, right? And this perseverance, I believe, that's what really was given.
Yeah. So from Kazakhstan until the age of 14, then you moved to military school and elite systems in Russia.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It is.
Was there a point when the path started to feel misaligned?
I feel, yes, of course. There were moments when, something is missing. Everything is kind of, you're in a certain bubble, and not a bubble like a social bubble. You're in a bubble, you're in a certain sphere that, everything is kind of dull in a sense. And it kind of like nulls down by the fact that you're still a teenager, right? Like I moved to Russia to study in this military university when I was just 17. So of course your life is still amazing, whatever it is, right? Like humans can adapt to everything. So you're adapting, and of course you're living, but then you're like, something is missing. And for me, by the time that I left from there, it was 7 years already in the army, and I was just 20.
Wow.
And imagine how the system was trying to fit me in. And it's just like, I was always, I want to think about myself that I was always a circle, and the system were trying to make me a cubicle, and like to push me into this kind of perfect mold. And and just in one moment, I'm so grateful that at one moment I just decided to resist.
Yeah. So you went to the military school in Russia. You spent how long? 7 years there?
4 years in the military university and 3 years in the military school.
In the military school.
So 7 years in total,
7 years. Wow. It's a lot. And then from Russia, you went back to Kazakhstan, or you moved to Mexico?
No, I moved. I actually came back to Kazakhstan by the age of. There was a funny moment when I think my psyche just like literally kind of pushed back, because now I understand this. Now when when after years of therapy and understanding the path, I realized that like my psyche could not just handle it anymore, and I just like pushed back. And I kind of, for 6 months, nobody knew where I was. So, and at that time I was DJing in a nightclub in Moscow, and I was just like living this, because as like you like by the age of 20, and then you're suddenly the freedom hits you with all the colors and all the beauty, and you're like in Moscow is an amazing city. It's pretty
beautiful.
It's beautiful. And there you go. I'm 20, and for the first time ever I experienced freedom. So these 6 months were crazy, but then I had to go back to Kazakhstan, of course. My family was looking for me. I had to fix things. And when I came back to Kazakhstan, I was coming back actually only for just 2 weeks. And I stayed for what happened to be 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. During our intro chat, you've described Mexico as a turning point.
Yeah.
What happened there that changed your course?
It's interesting because when I came back for these 2 weeks that became 15 years, somehow, and that what I realized also, it seems that this is kind of a destiny of mine if we talk about destinies. But it seems that I'm always walking on this edge of rigid systems and freedom. And the moment I came back to Kazakhstan, I started my business. I had a very large business in production of large-scale events. And somehow I got into a political circles as well. And my family is not from, I was a completely self-made person. So at the age of 28, I became an advisor to the mayor of Almaty, which is the biggest city of Kazakhstan. And then I gotten more into traditional governmental work with the World Expo that we held in Kazakhstan in 2017, and I was a director for content and events. So on one side, I started, this kind of free self-expression business of production of large-scale events. We're just like stadium concerts and theater and opera and ballet, and it was just like all about creativity. And at the same time, that path led me again to these rigid systems, and I found myself in, and again, it's practically the same. And I was like, wait a second. How is this happening that now I'm 34, 35, and I'm back again into this, and don't get me wrong, I really love the Gene Keys. I don't know if you have heard of this book by Richard Rudd, Gene Keys, and this is just like
No.
It's an interesting study, or I want to say a word, science based on human design, and that's the first time I read it. It was in 2019, and when I read that, it was just like a cold sweat because it reflected exactly what I felt always about myself. And it said, the way you're created by the universe is that you're perfect to thrive in hierarchical structures, but you're here to break them down. And I was like, I swear to God, I could not sleep that night because I was like, oh my God. And this is truly my path, I was always like, and the moment I'm in a hierarchical structure, I was always thriving, but it's a shadow side, And that moment, that's coming back to Mexico and to your question, that's the moment when I was 35 and we finished with Expo, which was a great success for Kazakhstan. It was an amazing experience for me personally and professionally. And then I realized that my path further on, if I stay in Kazakhstan, it leads to politics, to government, to these structures. And then again, something was missing. I was like, that something doesn't feel right. Although the external world is giving you all the appreciation, all the, support, and it shows you that hey, you're successful. Everything is great. You're rocking it. And that's when I left. I didn't leave to Mexico straight away. I first left I was thinking to live in LA. Because one of my childhood dreams still are to act, and I really love the craft of acting. Richard Rudd, Gene Keys, it's just fascinates me how a person can become someone else for some short period of time. So being a Gemini, for Gemini, it's like, wow, yes, that's everything I want to be like.
Yeah.
But then being in LA, I just came to Mexico for a weekend. And coming back to the question, it's just I believe Mexico finally gave me the freedom to be accepted for who I am without people attaching any status to my name.
Yeah, yeah. So let me take you back again to Kazakhstan. You led Expo 2017.
I was in the leading team, yes.
Yeah, within the leading team, which is, Expo, it doesn't matter which one, it's a major event. And I believe in Kazakhstan, it was the national major event. What was the personal cost of that level of leadership, being part of within the team organizer?
Well, you're right. The Expo 2017 was the largest project in the history of Kazakhstan. It's an event that lasted for 3 months. The preparation for that event was maybe 4 years. There was a huge corruption scandal before I joined the team. And then the new chairman that came, he brought me in, and he was like the trusted person in the government on a very high position, and who was very known and still very known for executing truly, like, when things are bad. And he did a flawless and amazing job. And I joined the project a year before opening ceremony, and I joined as the director of content and sponsorship and events. So I was responsible for opening ceremony, for closing ceremony. We made more than 3,000 events during 93 days. And
Wow.
and when I joined a year before the opening, and there was almost nothing done. And I was like, so, you see how like professionally it could call me, because, I was like, wow, this can be the major like challenge of your life. And I won't lie to you, it was amazing. It was professionally amazing. The amount, the thrill of it, the level of responsibility, because of we had 14 presidents at the opening ceremony, 54 prime ministers. The event just an opening ceremony was just like 10-hour long event that was translated everywhere to the world. And as much as it was like, wow, it was like opening ceremony, but then you finish it that night, and then you're like, okay, so we're just starting, and you're already drained. And then, but the preparation before in the governmental machine, because it was a governmental organization, was so complicated. And I was never working in that kind of environment. I was a businessman. I am still entrepreneur. So, for me, like, the bureaucracy, the complexity, the politics of it, and it was just very complicated. And well-being, I tell you honestly, that was the first time in my life when meditation truly saved my mental health. Not the last time, but the first time.
What did burnout, as you explained during the intro chat, feel like for you, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually?
Funny enough, I think physical burnout I never felt, or I never registered it, But spiritual burnout was complete, that just like, it is a very mixed amount of emotions. And I don't know if you heard about it or not, maybe, but after each Expo, 40% of people, I think, who work in the organization, they need therapy because they're getting burnout, and more than anything, it's actually people are becoming junkies of these large projects, and I know a lot of, I see, like, through all social media, like I'm still in touch with people who work in these large projects, and I see them jumping from one large project to another because you're just craving that level of adrenaline again, because nothing can fill the gap. And in a moment when everything was over, it was just like complete emptiness. Because imagine the level of what you were creating. It was just like the worldwide level of something, and you were contributing to that. And not just contributing, just like coming daily to work, you truly inside of that, like, big thing, and you're like there, and then it's just like it just deflates to complete zero.
Wow.
So, the physically, you kinda, it's not the main thing, but main thing exactly that. It's just like mental, it breaks you. It completely breaks you, because then you're like, after that, so what's next? Whatever I was thinking to do after was so not important, was so small, was so so that's how it really felt. It felt like, you kind of want, because you're going on that adrenaline, you want to keep running, you want to keep doing, and then it's a hard stop.
And then hard stop, And how do you transition from that level of, or that unique situation, being part of a large event like the Expo?
Definitely not the way how I did it. I think people should find better ways.
Okay.
I'm grateful for the path that I took, but looking back, I realized that it should not be the path, because I just I went traveling. I went partying. I went, that's again, it's like this, the same kind of what I was experiencing 15 years ago, this crazy feeling of freedom that hits you again, after very structured, rigid environment. And I just went like, all over. At that moment, not fortunate and unfortunate, but as it was, although I was practicing daily meditations, but I was not into, anything more closely spiritual or understanding, myself or deeper knowing. And now I would react completely different. And that's why I'm saying, like, I would offer and I would suggest to other people to be doing it different and to have a smooth transition, to sit with yourself, to journal, like to do things, to go on a retreat, maybe to go into a pilgrimage and then, I don't know, do the Camino in Santiago in Spain. Yeah. Something that like fulfills it, and not just going into like this energy that just throwing everywhere. But that's what I did. And it inevitably led me to deeper life. And that's what Mexico gave to me and gifted to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's shift gear and talk about the birth of ARK. So what sparked the idea of ARK?
Pandemic, of course. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I remember it was 2021 already. So we were already 1 full year in pandemic. And still nobody knew where it's going, what's going to be happening. And I was already 3 years of discovering myself, understanding myself, deeper learning, deeper understanding, trying to touch the understanding of how all this works. Learning the laws of the universe and understanding that maybe there are not so many laws in it. So, and then when pandemic happened, I just realized how deeply intertwined I personally was into the economical system, that I saw how I was doing investments at that time, because, I went to write a book, and I was in Mexico writing a book. I was taking acting classes, and I was like, well, financially, what I'm gonna do? I had some capital, so I'm just gonna be doing stocks investment and crypto and whatever it is. So you remember 2020. I remember when the economy was collapsing everywhere, and then stock market was giving like 300% portfolio growth, and I was like, wow, this is so wrong. And I realized that how interdependent I personally was, and how my close friends community were. We were lost, right? Like many people on earth, and we kind of restructured everything, because in one moment we started gathering, and I spent the most beautiful years, it's bad to say, but I was living in Tulum at that time. And Tulum was marvelous during pandemic. There were no tourists, everything was closed, and you could walk this white sand beach, and kilometers you had no one.
Wow.
It was beautiful, so beautiful. Like we spent all the time outside, and for us it was like very much like a bubble outside of the world. I stopped reading news in the beginning of 2020, because I realized that that whatever news are showing is not right, and for my mental health it was much better. So you kind of live in this kind of distorted reality when you're in this beautiful Caribbean paradise. And you're like, wow, this is the best time of my life. But then you don't read news, you don't understand what's happening with the world. You understand that the world is suffering, that many tragedies are happening. We all went through I had COVID maybe 5 times. And we were all at that time, of course, we were like very much like freedom fighters against vaccines and everything. I never took a vaccine. None of my friends did. We went, we decided to develop the natural immunity. But then Mexico opened gates to Tulum, and a lot of tourism flooded. And honestly, unfortunately, a lot of nature was destroyed, because a lot of developments came, because, that was the moment, right? 21.
Yeah.
And I just realized that I lost my home, my hometown at that time was Tulum. Mm-hmm. And I have to become real with my life as well, because we were starting gathering with friends and we were like, oh, so if this is the end, because we were like, remember, we were thinking like, maybe that's the end of the world. Who knows where it's all going? Nobody were like, systems are collapsing and maybe it's the end of civilization. And the very often question was like, okay, so if this is the end, what can you bring to the table if you are to live in the community? And I realized that I could not bring much. I cannot cook, I cannot hunt, I cannot farm, I cannot do things with my hands. Like all my knowledge is about very different things. Yes, I can project manage things, I can I can run projects, but if you tell me to make a table, a bed, I don't know, like to grow a vegetable, to grow a tomato, I had zero idea about these things.
Okay.
And that's, I believe, when I felt the calling.
Yeah. And for our audience, Marat, can you explain what's ARK it's all about?
Yeah, the ARK is we call it a regenerative village for the new era, and it's a 200 acre property, or 80 hectare land, and practically what we're doing, we're creating a new way of living. And I always laugh at ourselves when we say it so, because I'm like, but actually we're actually bringing people to the old way of living, how people were used to live.
Okay.
And we just unlearned how to live like that. And we call that it's a village for the new era because we believe that the success of this living is not to retreat from the world, but to offer to the world this way of living that is going to be synchronized with what is happening now, to where we are in this inverse point, right? Like where we all, I believe, and I hope many of us experience the collapse of the conventional systems, and we're building this new, more beautiful world. And the ARK is this bridge that I hope, or one of the bridges that we are creating. And that's why you remember I said, like, it seems that this is my life, like to build between this like freedom and rigid systems and being like in between. And that's, again, I find myself in between, like, you we're building a new world, but we are still operating in this kind of old paradigm of capitalism. And it's not that everything is bad there, right? But a lot is bad there.
Yeah. And why Costa Rica?
It's funny, and I've seen recently a big map of the world, and that said this places which are going to be safe if Third World War occurs. And in all Americas, it's only Costa Rica. Okay. And there is Australia and New Zealand and, traditional, like, far off places. And for me, Latin America, I'm so grateful to this place. I feel very much connected to this culture. So for me, coming to Costa Rica was always ringing the bell, right? The country is beautiful. And now that I live here, I realized I was just in Mexico again. I still come back and forth a lot. I really love Mexico. But then landing down in Mexico City, I remember, and I see how the old land is fractured, and wherever you land in Europe, whenever you travel it, right, you see how everything is squares. You have like fields of squares of something. And there is no like just land anymore. You just like don't see it anymore. You just like everything you fly, and I was like, wow, everything is somehow man-made now. And then you land back to Costa Rica and you just like fly over this eternal jungle and ocean, and it's just like, and then you take a jumper plane and you fly to Nicoya Peninsula, and it's just a jungle and a jungle and a jungle and a jungle. And for me, Costa Rica was always calling, because we all know it. I mean, see, your podcast is about healthy living, right? It's just like spend as much time as possible in the sun. If you're blessed enough to live by the ocean, in the ocean and outdoors, right? This is one of the main things, right? Like people stop spending time outdoors. And here I barely spend time indoors. I don't have indoors. My home is like completely open, and I always outdoors. So, and the ARK it's a healthy community. We are a community that's motivated by being the best versions of ourselves. So it was a logical choice.
Yeah. So you describe the ARK as regenerative, not just sustainable. What's the difference in your eyes?
Sustainability was a buzzword of end of 90s and 2000s and till maybe like 2015 even. And the idea was like that we have to preserve the state, right? Like it's just like to maintain it. And that was like all Paris Agreement of 2015 was a lot about it, right? Like to maintain, not to lead, not to give, if we go like the climate change, like global temperature rises above like 2.5 Celsius threshold. And that's just like, all the like tipping points. And that was a lot about sustainability, therefore the word. And I personally was, when I was before Expo, for me, word sustainability, how I believe for many of the listeners also, it's going to be just like, just a word that you don't even register, you don't understand. But
And
then when
how
you break
often,
it,
yeah, and Marat, sorry to cut you, during the Expo in 2017 in Kazakhstan, how often have you heard the word sustainability?
all the time. Expo was done in 2017 and we were dedicated to future energy. So
Yeah.
the Paris Agreement of 2015, we were like fully basing kind of on that. It was like our manifesto. So all
And
countries
was it easy to understand what sustainability is all about? Was it a
yeah.
complicated word to grasp, to understand?
Expos are an interesting concept because you your objective and my personal role as well was like, how can we unpack these complex agreements and words and break it down and into infotainment, infotainment is just like information and entertainment, right? So like people who come, like a regular visitor that comes and visits the Expo, then they get out something from that. They understand it, because the moment you're gonna bombard the usual crowd with like scientific terms and explaining different concepts, you're just gonna lose the crowd. You have to explain things like to a 7-year-old child, right? And how do you make it through like tactile and through them seeing different like concepts and playing with things and then like taking out something that like people learn about it. And at the same time, this is the mass kind of population, because expos are visited by millions and millions of people. I think we had more than 5 million people who visited Expo. So like 95% of these people, you have general population, and then 5% you truly have like politicians, entrepreneurs, businesses, scientists. And then so practically as a content of Expo, you have to create 95%, which is like for mass population. But then you still have to these 5%. So you have to maintain the conversations. You have to sign an important papers and protocols and manifestos and all of these things, and to get something like positive and working from there. So it was all over.
Yeah, but then hang on, because you use regenerative as, let's say, as a word instead of sustainable or sustainability.
Yes.
Do you find using regenerative, it's much simple, much appealing, put it this way, much realistic
Yeah.
than using sustainability as a word?
I feel it's not realistic is a good word because it's a must now. The thing is that we cannot, the harm that we have done, or not to blame us, where to blame, but not to blame humanity in the mass loss of biodiversity or whatever is happening, right? Last 50 years, the harm was done so much that we cannot just sustain it. Of course, the nature generally regenerates itself. And to break down the word regeneration, right? It's fixing, repairing, right? Restoring. And regenerative is, although it's not as a buzzword, but it comes more and more and more and more. And you now have regenerative finance. You have regenerative business practices. You have obviously regenerative agriculture, and this is like the new wave. And I really hope it's not gonna become because sustainability it didn't work out. Like at one moment we were all so tired of that world. We were like, oh, whatever, or eco-conscious, or like and you were like, oh my God, please stop that.
Marat, do you believe that the word sustainability is being over politicized?
100%. Over politicized, overused. It just became one of these words that don't anymore resonate, don't call anything. And it was just like politicians. Kind of they do what they do, right? They betray you on the simple things they pronounce, and these big words appear, right? Like a sustainable development, and then nobody understands what it is, and then nothing is happening, and you see that as the general population sees that things are getting worse, so they're like, oh, so where's that sustainability?
So do you see this word will be replaced or rebranded in the future? Because
I think that word
overused.
I think that word is a past, and we shall not be actually using it anymore. And I think regeneration has to substitute it. And it's not just a word. The important thing that the concept comes in place. Because when you're doing when you're sustaining, imagine again, like if we're bringing an analogy, which I think might be very close to your audiences, when like imagine you're an athlete and you're sustaining. And you're just sustaining yourself. You're sustaining yourself always. You run 100 meters in 9 seconds. I don't know. Right? And you're going to be like, I'm going to be always running my 9 seconds. Yeah. So where are you going to get, right? Like, so regeneration is more of like, it's improvement, and it's like creating these conditions for everything to repair itself. And it's also taking in everything and everyone as equal stakeholders. So when nature is your equal partner, that's regeneration. When you're creating conditions for it to thrive back again.
You had leaders and athletes visit the ARK. What were they searching for, Marat?
Well, I think for now we're a relatively young project, right? We're 3 years young, and these leaders and athletes, the majority were my friends, who were first of all interested in what I'm doing and what are the change I'm bringing, who know my path from the past, and who are also now looking for, okay, so this can be a mid-season base, or this could be a different way of living, because, like this can be something where I can live a healthy life, I can live a connected life, like the life of professional athletes more than anything, and it's pretty solitary, right? It's just like you travel very much with different sports, of course, but the ones that I know are pretty solitary. It's just like you travel with your coach, maybe one person from your family, and it's just like from one place to another. And this longing for connection is always there, because even like I really love big tennis, like, and tennis, and it's just like looking and like tennis players, it's like you kind of have a connection with everyone with whom you are in the mix. But then at the same time, they're your rivals. So you kind of have people around, but don't. And you're traveling, you're jumping from place to place, and it's challenging. And you're on the constant verge of this mental, you have to be on top of your game all the time, like other 300 players. So I think this place, the ARK, as a concept as well, first of all, gives the possibility, if people are still professional athletes, still like gives a possibility to have this kind of place where they truly can experience the connection with other people, and at the same time keep practicing, keep working out. It's a healthy lifestyle, it's an organic food, it's social connections at a very different level, much deeper. And for leaders, which also can be very solitary, right? It's just like, and it's also then meeting other people. And then of course then we're talking about with entrepreneurs, we're talking about burnout, we're talking about mental crisis, we're talking about very solitary life that people live because they don't very often in these capitalistic hierarchical structures. You know how like all of these old books of Jack Welch about corporate America, like, you climb this ladder, but then like, you're there on that ladder, and then at a certain level of a ladder, you understand that you're standing on the heads of other people, and you're actually feeling very alone, and like, you're like, that's actually not what I was thinking it's going to be. And that's when people are coming to places like ARK and feeling that it's just like, again questioning like, is that what I really wanted for myself?
And Marat, how has your idea of leadership evolved from Expo to
Oof.
ARK?
Such a great question. Thank you. It's the Expo was purely hierarchical structure. It was like very much politicized governmental hierarchy. Like I had my immediate team was around 40 something people. My larger team was like 1,000 people with like, hundreds of subcontractors, where you pretty much have to show force, you have to be strong. It's everything that you read in the business books of 90s, beginning of 2000s, when you're just like, you have to show up like the best version of yourself daily, and you're just has to be this the most motivated guy, and just like you never show your weakness. And this is a complete opposite of what's happening here. And here we sit with the team in circles. We have like and we sit with our residents in circles. We have like every 2 weeks, and with the team circle we are having every. If you would tell me, Sid, 10 years ago that I would be sitting with my team in a circle, I would laugh in your face. I would be like, hey, that's something, this is like some hippy dippy shit. Don't bring it to me.
Yeah.
And now, and now we like, it's beautiful because it's a very different way of relating to people, a very different way of executing. There is way more human of me as well now. And Sid, if you gonna ask me of like, so you're doing it great, believe me, no. It's a lot of learning for myself personally, how to
it's
evolve.
a constant learning.
It's a constant learning, and how unlearning, I would even say. It's an unlearning from this hierarchical like pyramid towards a flat structure where everyone is a equal stakeholder, and you give a lot of ownership to other people, and it's painful. For me, it's a lot of support that I'm giving to people and I'm getting from people. It's a lot of vulnerability, which comes with a cost for me. It's not easy. It's not, because it's also like, we are, and that's why I'm saying like we're this bridge, right? It's like, it's also like the people who are in the team, they're also unlearning. And it's not that everybody, like the whole team is now regenerative business and everything. And here I am, the only guy who is a leader from the past, and coming and trying to mold in. No, we are all making this transition. So people are still expecting a lot of these hierarchical structures from you. People tell you like, hey, like sometimes we need that. And you know what I discovered? Not I discovered at all. Somebody definitely discovered it way before me, but what I definitely realized on myself is that we as people, we really very often need structure and support and direction, because whenever there is like a lot of freedom, people are getting lost. It's very often people just like, oh, we want to be free, but that's actually not what people want. And now we're opening, for instance, we're opening a school, and it's a school based on Montessori education principles with self-guided education. It's an amazing, beautiful experience that I also realized, and I'm fascinated now by that, and that's what I really love about this education, that it's like freedom with limits. So like freedom within borders. So like you prepare the environment, and they're like, and kids are free to explore, but there is a defined space, and there are like defined. So you kind of like, coming back to your question, I believe my work is this, right? Like there is a very general like direction, vision, where we are going, the necessity and desire to produce results, and I believe like my work is now like this, to prepare this environment and to empower people to be within this environment and to lead by themselves, because it cannot be a one-man show. It's an enormous project, right? So like, it cannot work on hierarchical structures, because then you're just taking out the ownership from people.
Yeah. Marat, what advice would you give someone with a dream that feels too big?
That's a great question. I think I don't want to definitely give advices into like, oh, break it into the small actionable steps and everything. People can learn it from business books much better than from me. But I think the advice that I would give is that not if you can dream it, you can make it. You know?
Nice.
And it's just like, just go for it.
Nice. What one failure that ended up being a gift or a lesson?
I got into a very we haven't spoken about this, but it's more like from my personal things. I got into a very complicated financial scam once, at like a Ponzi scheme, you know,
Okay.
and I lost almost all my capital. It was 2018, and I lost a tremendous amount of money. So stupid, and it hit me really hard, you know, because traditionally, of course, like I believe we all think about ourselves as pretty intelligent people, and that's definitely what I was thinking about myself. And when you know when all that happened, and then by the end of that situation, I was like, wow, you're that stupid, dude. And it triggered a lot of, you know, complicated processes inside of me. And but really the greatest lesson that it gave me is that trust has to be earned. Because I was truly very much easily trusting person before.
Do you see the ARK model as something that can be replicable?
100%, definitely. And this is our higher purpose. We have this, it's imprinted with all of us. We have to become, and we want to become a blueprint for other communities. And we want this blueprint to be rooted in the principles of regeneration and shared prosperity. The idea is that in the ARK, we are not a real estate development. The ARK is a movement. The ARK is of course, it's a real estate project, right? It's like land and everything. But more than anything, it's a new economical model. Every person that joins the ARK is becoming also a profit partner of the project. So imagine that you buy an apartment in an apartment building, and the developer comes to you and says, see, thank you so much. Now you're going to be getting $200 a month just because you have an apartment here. Because we as a business are making money, and you would be like, great. And maybe that's how it's supposed to be, right? And we believe that in this new era, that's how it's supposed to be, that these communities that are appearing, and a lot of people are searching for that, for this sense of belonging. We believe that these communities shall not follow the traditional capitalistic development where like there is a developer and then like, you know, that person makes money, or there is an investor that makes money through the developer. And so the project is vouching for shareholders' benefits and profits, and then the people are just consumers. We believe that we have to reverse the pyramid, and now, like, you know, that everybody who are joining the project shall be benefiting from the project, that the profit of the project shall be shared, and we want to show that this is possible, and to create this blueprint and to gift it to others. We don't want to go to other countries and developing other ARKs, I don't know, Indonesia or Spain and anywhere, but rather we want to be helping others to implement this.
Great. What's your vision for what living could look like in 10 years?
I really want to think that we are going to be smart enough to befriend artificial intelligence and to and to make this kind of idyllic life between us and technology. And I really want to think so. Unfortunately, I don't believe so.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think in 10 years, I hope that people will get more into in nature, that people will start living more in nature, that people will
Yeah.
understand finally that this separated, disconnected way of living is not benefiting us and it's not good for our mental health. I hope that we in 10 years, we will not be making our kids super achievers, but we will allow them to be kids. And I hope that we will get back to the earth, to live from the earth, to consider the earth as an equal partner and equal stakeholder, and we will realize that Mars sucks to live. And we have to take care of that planet and not to find the way how to escape from it.
Yeah.
And I
try
really
to
believe
occupy Mars.
exactly,
Planet
and
Mars.
not to try to be invaders into other planets, and but to really take care of the planet that gave life to all of us.
Yeah, yeah. Well said, well said. You're listening to the Pre-Zero Sports Talk. For more conversations on sports leadership, faith, performance, and innovation from Sweden to the world, visit prezerosportstalk.com. Marat, now it's time for our lightning round. Ready for speedy Q&A?
Let's do it.
Good. What's a book that shaped your worldview?
Gene Keys by Richard Rudd.
Okay. Morning ritual that never fails you.
Walking meditation of Joe Dispenza on the beach, 5 a.m.
Kazakhstan winters or Costa Rica jungles?
Can I choose both? Skiing is just
What does freedom feels like now?
radical self-expression. And no
If you
fear of
weren't-
being judged. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. If you weren't building the ARK, what would you be doing?
I think producing immersive theater shows and acting.
Good. One thing about leadership that people misunderstand.
They think that there is a lot of them in leadership, when leadership is about others.
Okay. Are you a coffee person or tea or something else?
Coffee.
Coffee. Go to local meal in Costa Rica.
Gallo Pinto. For everyone who's coming here, Gallo Pinto, it's just, it's
Must
addictive.
have.
It's an
Yeah,
addictive meal.
A moment that made you laugh recently.
I think seeing keys and understanding what it was less of a laugh, but more of like a giggle of joy when seeing the joy of kids through what we're creating for them. And I was like, wow, this is working. This is insane.
One person living or dead you have dinner with.
Good question. There are so many.
Pick one.
I would say Albert Einstein.
Why?
I just think it's interesting to bring to him everything that is there now, and to show him also artificial intelligence, and to see and to have this interaction and have his reflections about it, and black holes and all the achievements, and to pick his brain on so what do you think now? And to also show a person. I feel very often maybe imagine when you die and then you come back and X amount of years and you see what the change you have brought to the world through your work. Wow.
Yeah. Good. What's a non-negotiable in your life now? Marat Omarov, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Sid. Thank you.
Great. And as we close, to our listeners, I leave you with a quote from R. Buckminster Fuller. He was a 20th century American inventor, architect, and futurist, best known for creating the geodesic dome and for championing sustainable systems-based thinking. He once said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. That's what Marat is doing with clarity, courage, and community. We want to thank you for joining our show. If you enjoyed this episode, we have more for you. You can now watch the entire episode on our YouTube and Spotify channels. While you're here, subscribe and don't forget to tap the bell. Visit prezerosportstalk.com to explore more conversations on sports, leadership, faith, performance, and innovation. From Sweden to the world. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and make a difference. We'll see you soon. Take care.